Can you believe we started Interview Boss in 2021?
Not really. It's insane. That's a lot of episodes and a lot of hours of talking.
Oh my gosh, it is. And if you're scrolling through all of our episodes, you might scroll straight past something that you really, really needed.
Yes, we're always getting messages from people asking us to do an episode on something, and I'm like, we already have.
So we've put together playlists to help you find the episodes that are exactly what you need, suited to your situation.
They're all categorized. If you're applying for jobs, we have episodes about resumes, cover letters, job ads. If you've been offered your dream job, we have episodes on resigning, exit interviews, and how to impress at your new company.
And we even have a very special playlist that's very popular for if you have an interview coming up immediately and you need just our most recommended hard-hitting episodes between now and then.
For all our last-minute listeners. It's all there for you. You can browse by category and check out all the playlists at interviewboss.com.au/podcast.
You do it all the time, which means you're experienced at it, which means that's probably the reason that they want to hire you, actually.
It's giving like, I'm a nurse who saves people's lives every day, but it's only every day, so saving lives doesn't matter. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Interview Boss. My name's Emma. I'm a radio journalist who's teamed up with my sister to give you advice, inspiration and support when you're looking for a new job. Sarah is a HR and recruitment professional, and together we're excited to give you all the tips, tricks and behind the scenes knowledge to help you in your career.
Hey, Em, it is a very special Interview Boss day today. You guys, you're listening to the Australian Podcast Awards shortlisted podcast for education and business 2024. Oh my God, we just found out this morning.
We're finalists. So we are in two separate categories, like Sarah said, for business and education. We're up against just 5 other people in the country. It's huge.
It's crazy. This is like, I still can't really believe it. Like, if you don't know what podcast awards are or how it all works, or whatever, it's kind of like, think of it like the Oscars for podcasting. And oh my God, we are so excited. Even just to be like finalists is incredible, let alone in 2 categories. Like I said to Emma earlier today, if we actually win, I might pass away. Like,
yeah, it's going to be insane.
Like I just can't really.
We get to dress up. It's like a nice, fancy red carpet kind of event. It's a 3-course dinner, drinks. We're bringing our whole entire family. The family group chat was popping off today. Our sister, her husband, everyone's like, I'm coming. When is it? I'll be there.
Meeting other podcasters. Very exciting. And look, if you're listening to this in the future, maybe we won. Maybe we didn't. I don't know, but we're excited.
We're going to win. You said at the start, you're so happy and surprised. I am surprised like you, but I'm also not, because I had faith from the start. When I did our application, I told you, watch this space. We're going to get picked. I just know
Emma's the manifestor. She is. Like, we wouldn't have even entered if it wasn't for her. So, okay, but back to today's content. This is a very, very important episode. We're going to be linking everyone to this episode for the rest of time, forever. So first, who are we giving a big fat shoot your shot shout out to?
To Shannon Tate, who bought us 5 coffees. And the weirdest thing happened. There was some Shannon inception. I don't know if you noticed this, but Shannon Tate bought us some coffees, and then the exact same day, a different Shannon bought us some coffees. And I was like, wow, the Shannons are really just shooting their shot a lot lately, aren't they? So shout out to the Shannons.
Shout out to the Shannons shooting their shot.
They said, hey, Emma and Sarah, I'm so glad I found you. I've spent the majority of my career in the military, close to 20 years, so have done minimal experience with traditional interview processes, having only done 3 interviews ever before this most recent job. That's not many over 20 years. I applied for a role with a company that I wanted to work for a while. I had very little confidence in my resume, so when I received an email letting me know I had a video/recorded interview, I was excited but also terrified. I'd done one of these once before and it was an awful experience. I have a friend who'd recently been applying for jobs and had found your podcast, so she forwarded me the link to your episode about recorded interviews.
Oh, a friend sharing an episode. We love to see it.
And also that was such an old episode that feels like it was so long ago, but clearly still relevant. The advice around letting your personality show through to see if you're a good culture fit was a game changer for me. It went better than I thought, though I still had a few cringe moments remembering back to what I'd said and that it would be forever kept in video form. Relatable. Yeah. Amazingly, I got a call the very next day before the recorded interview timeframe had finished to let me know I had an in-person interview. This is where I got serious and started binging all your episodes anytime I was in the car. I also purchased the Interview Academy to make sure I was as prepared as I could be. I felt super confident coming out of the interview and again got a call the following morning for a second interview with the general manager. This went great and was followed up by a call only hours later to say I was moving on to the vetting phase. I'm now days away from getting a contract. I cannot thank you enough, and I've been recommending your podcast to anyone that will listen.
Oh my God, I love it. That's so cool. Interview Academy plus the podcast plus had it shared by a friend. So it's coming from a trusted place. And I also love, did the recorded interview, heard back straight away before the deadline had even come up for the recorded interview. And that's one of our tips from that episode, which is you should do it as soon as you get the opportunity to. Don't wait until the end because they'll be looking at them as soon as possible. Oh, I love this so much. Congratulations, Shannon. I'm hoping that you have your contract now and it's all finalized. That is incredible.
To go from not having had an interview in almost 20 years to killing it in the recorded interview, progressing before the deadline even closed, and getting straight to the vetting phase is incredible.
And then hours later, like they're fast tracking. That is so, so cool. You must have done so well. Now, if you want results like that, check out the Interview Academy, like the wonderful Shannon, or you can check out my one-on-one sessions. You can find out which one's right for you at interviewboss.com.au/coaching and compare the pair, look at which one suits so that you can make sure that you are absolutely the most prepared going into that interview.
Yes, and if you liked one of our episodes, used a tip we sent you, or you want to request an episode on your conundrum, you can kindly follow us on Instagram and then slide into our DMs and we'll pick you the next time we're looking for inspiration on an episode to do.
Yes, and this one is kind of inspired by lots of different questions that we get in our DMs, right?
It's highly requested. So if you're a long-time listener, you know the best bits is the foundational teaching of this whole entire thing. If you're going to take anything from us, let it be the best bits. Long live the best bits.
It's the first of our 10 commandments. If we had 10 commandments, it would be number one.
But we realised that it's something we consistently mention and sprinkle here and there, but the problem is there's no episode that's titled Best Bits. So which in hindsight, I wish we came up with a better name for it. It's quite simple, but
I know I keep saying that. Yeah,
it's fine. It's our brand now.
It was 2021, Emma and Sarah. They didn't know. They didn't know what we would become. They didn't know that we would be stuck with this name, but it's fine. It's catchy. People get it.
So although this is mentioned everywhere, there's no title. Like this is like exclamation points. Best bits start here. Hello, listen to this if you're new and you need a best bits crash course. So we're going to revisit it in depth, and this can be your guide to catch you up to speed. If you're already quite across it, treat this as a refresher. If you're one of the people that have been looking like, where the hell are these best bits? Here they are.
Yeah. And the reason that we do it that way, by the way, just to clarify, is because nobody's going to be searching for best bits because they don't know what that is because that's an us thing. So the titles are always like behavioral interview questions, like how to level up your answers. Like it's other stuff that relates to the topic, obviously. And the whole thing is we discuss best bits, but we're kind of meeting people where they're at for what they're actually searching for. So that's why we do it that way. But this one, we're going to call it Best Bits, and we're going to link everyone back to this episode. So the first game-changing piece of advice, I think, and this comes from like one of our first ever episodes called The Best Way to Prepare for a Job Interview. I think it's like number 3 or something like that, is you're preparing for your job interviews backwards. Backwards, all backwards. What does that mean, Em? What are people doing backwards?
It means forget anything you've ever been told before. Forget any instinct to Google common job interview questions, top 10 most common job interview questions. Throw that out the window. Because what that does is it makes you vulnerable, because all of a sudden you've prepared for 5 questions that include, what's your biggest strength? What's your biggest weakness? Tell me about a time you failed. And then you go into the interview and they don't ask you any of those things. You panic, you go blank, you can't think of anything, you're trying to come up with stuff on the spot. Big fat fail.
Yes. Or like you've just like cherry picked these little random answers to these random questions, forgetting the purpose of the interview is to make sure that you get a chance to talk about all the things you've done, all the things that are great about you, all the stuff you've achieved, all of your experiences, accomplishments, all that kind of stuff. And so you walk out, like let's say you can answer every question because you prepared for so many different questions. I think what's even worse than going blank is you walk out being like, yeah, I answered every question, except that when you sit back and think about it, all these great things you've done, you just didn't ever mention. They just don't know about it.
You didn't do yourself justice.
Yes. And so they think that that's the best that you get. And it's such a shame because you can't always control whether you get the job or not. We can control, though, doing ourselves justice. And that's why you're preparing backwards. So this is our biggest interview game changer. Like Emma said, the best bits is our number one piece of advice. If you just want to take one thing from our podcast, best bits. Honestly, that's it. Just one thing. It will level up your whole interview, even if you don't do anything else. You should do other stuff, but, you know, if you're going to take one thing, let that be it.
Yes, you want to walk out there knowing that no matter what question they asked you, you managed to mention your non-negotiables. So you want to come up with your list. It might be 6 to 10 things that are your most epic bits. And it doesn't matter what they ask you because you're going to weave them in there and make sure they know about it. We're not going to wait until they ask us on the off chance to tell us about an incredible project we've worked on. No, you'll know about it. I'll be working it in there. So what is the best bit?
Well, they are your examples, basically. I think people get a bit confused about best bits and they talk about like character traits that they have. Oh, I'm really reliable. That's really nice. And we can definitely demonstrate that in a story, but they're examples. So, okay, I'm reliable. Well, tell me how. Give me an example. They have to be examples. They come from the things that you've done typically at work, but could be anywhere. More importantly than just being an example, though, they demonstrate your skills, experiences, and achievements, and we want to turn them into a story. So they're your stories that you want to tell. It's, hey, I really need you to know about this new system that I implemented because it's a huge thing that I did and I'm really proud of it. And there's no way I'm walking out of that interview having never mentioned it, just being like, oh, well, they didn't ask me about it. No. As soon as someone's like a deadline, great, I'm talking about it. As soon as someone's like a project, talking about it. Stakeholders, talking about it. Anything, I'm talking about it. I'm making sure that it comes up. Like, this is going to be a really random segue, but you know how people are like, how do you know? And I say this as a celiac who is gluten-free. How do you know someone's gluten-free? Oh, don't worry, they'll tell you. Like, how do you know someone's vegan? Oh, don't worry, they'll tell you. How do you know someone works in consulting? Oh, don't worry, they'll tell you. I think it's got that energy to it of like,
it's giving I'm bossy and I'm manipulative and I'm going to do whatever I need to get my way in this interview.
Or like, you didn't ask me to tell you this story particularly, but I'm going to fit it in whatever way I can because you need to know about this. And you don't know it yet, but you need to know this story.
Now, importantly, the other thing people get hung up on, these don't have to be groundbreaking, I saved the whole company's building from burning down moments. They can be the inconsequential, mundane, and I say mundane as in they may seem mundane to you because you do it every day, but in the context of what your job is and why doing those mundane things is important, they're impactful. So don't think and get too overwhelmed and be like, but I've never done something insane where the CEO personally came and shook my hand. No, we're thinking too big. Lower your vision a little bit.
And if you've got stuff like that, great. You have to include them. If the CEO did come and shake your hand, put it in there. But you're going to have like one of those or two of those or whatever. The rest of it, they want to know about your day-to-day job. Like, think about it this way. Let's say we're hiring a radio journalist and we're interviewing Emma. Now, are we going to ask her about just the times when everything went horrifically wrong and she had to save the day? Sure, that's relevant. But like most of the time, that's not going to happen. So we kind of want to know, can she do her job day to day? Does she know how to do it every day when things are normal? Like, I want to know how good she is at reading the news. I want to know how good she is at researching. I want to know how good she is at staying on top of her deadlines. I want to know whether she speaks on air with the team, how she prepares with them, how she works with a team. I want to know that stuff. Yes, it happens every single day, multiple times a day. Great. That's like the whole of your job, and that's
the whole reason we're here.
I know. I find that funny. I try and help people kind of connect those dots, and they're like, oh, but I do that all the time. And I'm like, so you do it all the time, which means you're experienced at it, which means that's probably the reason that they want to hire you, actually.
It's giving like, I'm a nurse who saves people's lives every day, but it's only every day, so saving lives doesn't matter.
Or I tried to use an example the other day of like saying to a professional sports person, like, let's say it's Simone Biles, and she's like, oh yeah, but I do flips every day, so that's boring. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's why you're so good at it.
That's the kind of the whole point. Like, that's the thing that you're really good at. That's why we want you to participate in this competition. So that's what best fits are. Brainstorming them is really, really hard. Just want to call that out. It's the hardest bit of your whole interview prep. It really is, because you've got to like dig into your memory. If you've got years and years of career history, like how are you going to condense that down into like a couple of stories? It's really hard. And suddenly you sit down and you're like, I don't know, I've never achieved anything ever. It takes a while. You're going to have to think about it. And if you try and skip this part and just do somebody tell me what story I should tell, you have to do the thinking.
You can't escape the thinking.
I know. And also nobody else can do it for you. I do this a lot in interview coaching sessions when I have someone turn up and they're struggling with coming up with their best bits. And I can help prompt them. But unfortunately, I can't go into their memory and pluck out stories because I don't know what they've done. It's like nobody else can do it for you. You can get colleagues and things to prompt on what they know that you've achieved and give you suggestions and stuff, but you're going to have to think yourself. Put your mind to it. Like, start a little note, and then when you're in the shower, you'll be like, oh, remember I did that thing? And you'll like duck out and write a little note about it.
And you'll find the more you start to do this, then your brain's alerted to them. So then the next day you're at work, something happens and you're like, oh, this is the best bit, and you become more best bit conscious. And then you can start a running notes app and just jot them down.
Totally. That's exactly right. And I think sometimes people want to come up with like the amazing ones first. You're probably not going to be able to do that. Just start coming up with boring ones and get yourself flowing. And then once you're flowing...
And take a few days.
Yeah, I do think you need time. If you sit down and be like, right, in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to come up with however many, like it's hard thinking work.
Now, we have an episode called Interview-Worthy Examples, What Makes a Great Story. That will help you identify how to choose good ones. So we talk more about what kind of things you should gravitate toward.
What makes a good best bit kind of thing. So it talks about they don't have to be groundbreaking, everyday stuff. There's some prompts in there that we've got as well. So we'll link to that below, so that if you want to go more in depth on the brainstorming and coming up with them, maybe that's an episode that you need to go more in depth with.
Interview Academy might be the perfect thing you're looking for. Interview Academy is a course Sarah has been working on after delivering hundreds of interview coaching sessions and getting incredible results.
But unfortunately, I'm only one gal living in an Aussie time zone who works a day job, and all of that mean I can't help everyone one-on-one, which drove me crazy.
So for over a year, Sarah's been working on turning all of those amazing lessons into an on-demand, step-by-step interview prep course. We hold your hand through the entire thing,
and you can do it at home in your own time and get instant access right now. Check it out at interviewboss.com.au/interview-academy. The link is in the show notes.
And they need to be specific stories. So you're not just saying, yeah, well, every day I get on to the software news boss and I write my stories.
And then sometimes this, and then if this comes through, then I do that. And then maybe I would do that depending on this. And if it's a Friday, I would do this. It's like you get stuck being like if, and the story's not going anywhere, and we haven't heard any of your skills, experiences, achievements.
Yes, that stuff is reserved to the opening sentence where you're like, yeah, well, in my role as blah, I do that every day because of this. For example, that's your story. You can do the generic, vague talking at the start.
For example, on a regular weekday, like last week. Here's what I did when I came in. This. Yeah, exactly. Now, the other part of that being specific, sometimes you need to break down something big that you've achieved as well. I was talking to someone the other day on a coaching session, and she had this massive project that was like delivery optimization, let's call it. But that's what she did for 2 years. That was her whole job for 2 years. So like that project, incredible. That's going to be the content of a lot of her stories. But there's going to be mini stories within that. If you try and do, the time I did delivery optimization, it's too much. There's too much to go. And you're going to end up having to be so general and so high level that there's no detail in there. Or you're going to add detail. It's going to be way too long and you still haven't kind of touched on anything. So you need to break it up. So it can be like, okay, this was one of the initiatives we did as part of that project, and that's a story on its own. And then there's another whole story on a different initiative. And then there's a thing with the stakeholders and getting them on board. And then there's a thing with like the training that you had to run, and that's a whole nother story.
Or during phase 1 of the rollout.
Yeah, whatever. Or like when this problem went wrong with the thing, like you can break a certain situation up or a certain project or achievement up into smaller ones if you need to, in order to be detailed and specific enough and have it be useful.
Now, importantly, your best bits need to be structured. So we have a little formula that is called situation, what I did, end result. And we tried to come up with an acronym, and I tried to make it work with the Squirrels in My Pants song from Phineas and Ferb. Positive result. Squirrels in my pants.
There's squirrels in my pants.
S to the I to the M to the P. Squirrels in my pants. And we couldn't quite make it work because we were like, situation, I did something about it, and then we couldn't work out the M, and then P was like, anyway, I think some listeners made some suggestions for us, but I can't remember what they were.
Yeah. Look, it's again, we're not so good with the naming of the things. It is what it is. There's already car, there's already star. It's the same thing. We just talk about it in more of a storytelling kind of a way. That's why we use those words. But if you're already familiar with star, then use star. Like, we're not precious here about saying that other things aren't going to work. You just need to have a structure. And the only reason I didn't like the star is like, what's the T? Like ST? I don't get that. I just don't think that you need to be like, and my task was to blah, blah, blah. It's like,
no, yeah, we're simplifying.
Yeah.
Situation. So we're giving context. Here's what was happening. Here was my job. Here was my role. This is what needed doing.
What was important? What was the consequences of it? The background information, all that sort of stuff. Here's what I did specifically. Here's what the team did. Here's what my role was in it. Here's how I actually did that as well. So you giving details. It's more like, okay, I liaised with stakeholders. Well, that's not good enough. What do you mean by that? Like, did you email them or did you have 10 meetings? Like, be specific. And then how did it all turn out? Bring it all together. It's an awesome formula. We have a whole episode on actually structuring it. It's called How to Answer Behavioural Interview Questions. Again, we'll link that below if you want to go more in depth around what do I put in the situation, what about what I did, what about the end result. I think in that episode we also talk about problems that people have with structuring and where they get stuck and things like that too. And then there's another one that's been so helpful. People really, really love this one. How to level up your interview answers, why the situation matters most. So don't start there. Listen to the foundational ones first. But when you're ready, go listen to that one and it'll make you add way more detail to your situation section. We give so many good examples in that app about how it just transforms your answers. And we get a lot of feedback from people saying that was a game changer.
Yes. And once you've done this work and you've come up with your best bits, but within each best bit, you then are coming up with a structured story. So the best bit is managing that big project and a specific story about it. Then you're doing the situation, what I did, end result. It should be like a mini paragraph for that specific example. And by the end, you should have as many as you can. Ideally, 10, like that would be great if you could aim for that.
Yeah, but think about like how long's your interview? How many questions are they going to ask you? Let's say they ask you 10 questions. Are you going to perfectly match all of your 10 and you can't reuse any of them and like they all align perfectly to the topics? Like that's cutting it really fine. So the more the better. The longer the interview, the more complex the job description, the more varied your job, the more you're going to need, the more senior you are. Like just keep going.
Yes, but just ballpark at least 10.
Yeah.
So once you have them, the next superpower comes from this whole foundational concept is that you can then start adapting these to different questions. My favorite analogy is like when you're in high school and you're sitting your final exams and it's an English exam and you know what text you're studying. It's Romeo and Juliet or whatever stereotypical text it is. And you get all your quotes out of the book beforehand. You have them memorized.
Or the themes or the symbolism or the whatever evidence that you're going to be putting in, you already have those ready.
But you don't know what the essay question's going to be. But that doesn't matter because you can get in there and you know the book so well, inside and out, just like you know yourself and your experience in the workplace so well, that it doesn't matter what the question is. You can tweak it. You know the themes, you know the triumphs, and you adapt. So it's the exact same thing. So rather than what you were doing before you found out about us, it's okay, we forgive you, where you're pinpointing, tying an example permanently to a specific question. That's not what we're doing. We have 10 broad, epic things that can show multiple examples. So Sarah, give us an example of a little story and all the different themes that it could show at once.
Yeah, sure. So let's use an example of you improved a process. Doesn't have to be groundbreaking. It's just that things come into the email inbox and you then capture that information in a spreadsheet, whereas before they were just filed in the email inbox and it was really hard to find the stuff that you needed, right? That could be in anyone's job, really, that they're doing that. Anyone who works behind a desk, that could be an example from you. Now, there's so much involved in that. If you break it down to all the details, there's problem solving. Great. It works for a problem-solving question. There would probably be some like using technology. Great, because you might be doing formulas. It could work for an Excel question, actually, depending on what the spreadsheet was that you kind of set up. Maybe you even automated a part of it. So it could work for like tech innovation, changing things. You might have had to get your colleagues on board with like, hey, are you okay if we do this? Maybe they were a bit resistant and you had to kind of get them on board. Great. Stakeholders, teamwork, you know, like there's so much of this, like navigating change. Maybe you had to run a little training session for the whole team. Maybe that's communication skills of writing a really clear email.
Sense of initiative because no one asked you to do it. You just saw the need for yourself and took action.
Right. And so all of those different things, you can now use that. If the story happened to have a bit where you tried it and then it kind of didn't work for a little while and then you improved it, great. Well, then now that works for like a question about failure. Like go into detail about, okay, what are all the ways that this story, if I highlight different parts of it or adapt it a little bit on the fly, could answer those different questions. Now, you can't use it over and over again. Imagine you just, in the interview, you just had the one answer and you're like, yes, well, back to that spreadsheet. That was a good example of failing. And they're like, okay, give us something else. So you can only use it once, but it's adaptable, it's flexible. And if all your awesome best bits can all be used for multiple answers, that's how you end up prepared for literally any question. Anything. You don't have to know what they are. You might have never heard them phrase that question. You're like, oh God, I had no idea that was coming. But you go, okay, hold on, let me think. Okay, they've asked me something about conflict with an external team. Okay. Oh, well, in this story, I dealt with an external team. Yeah, there's a bit of conflict there. Great. Okay, that one's going to work.
And we have just released a couple of episodes about practicing and practicing with a buddy and getting someone to help you, which can then be, go and listen to that after this, once you've done all your best bits, because that's the next step is then you do practicing of someone asking you a question and you adapting different answers to get all the different beautiful combos. So the best bits is game changing for so many reasons because it puts us back in control instead of anxiously hoping and praying that they only ask you the specifics of what you've planned for. And it makes us adaptable.
Yeah. I want you to think of it like, I think the exam example is a good kind of comparison. So when you're prepping for an exam, you're not thinking, what questions are they going to ask? What questions are they going to ask? Like if you only did, your only form of study was looking at past exam questions, you're going to miss some stuff actually, because they just might not have asked a question about that before. What you want to be looking at is, okay, what are they trying to test me here? What's the course material? Let me get really good at all the course material. And then it doesn't matter what they ask me. I know all the course material. That's what you're doing, except with your own work experience. And it might sound really silly, but you live it every day. It's not very often, well, it's kind of never really, except out of a performance review maybe, that you actually sit down and be like, what have I done actually? What have I been doing? Because you just come to work and you do it every day and you're not reflecting. You're not thinking about, oh yeah, that's right, that's how that ended or whatever. So you have to do the hard thinking work first so that you don't have to do it on the spot in an interview. If you are getting an interview question and in that moment, you have to dig into your memory and do like a Control F search through your whole memory of everything you've ever done, come up with a story, remember it because it's like, oh, it was a year ago. It was a bit fuzzy. You're remembering it. You're panicking a little bit. You're having to structure it, work out what's relevant, what's not. And then you're like, oh, I didn't mention that. Oh, yeah. And I should have mentioned that's why that was important because he was also new into the team. You're trying to structure it and speak all at the same time. Disaster. You need to do the remembering and the structuring up front so that you can focus on just the matching and the speaking in the interview.
So I think that sums up the best bits crash course.
Yes, it does. This is the best bits kind of overview. And if you've been wondering, what are they talking about, these best bits? We're going to be directing everyone straight to this episode. Go and have a look in the show notes and we'll link to all the other episodes that mention our best bits. But if we've got more episodes out since this one came out, there's probably new ones that we haven't even linked yet that are also about best bits. So use this as your starting point and then scroll through and keep an eye out for other stuff that might be relevant to you. We'll probably continue not calling them best bits just in our episode titles because that way other people who don't know what they are come across them in the right way. But this is your foundation. This means make sure that when we say best bits, you know what we're talking about.
The best bits concept will set you free. And that's your little crash course on the basics. You have all the info you need to go forth and do a great job.
Now, some listeners, you might be the type that goes, okay, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to start. They only need to be pointed in the right direction and then they're off. They're independent. They're like, oh, this makes sense. Okay, great, cool. And they can come up with their stories. They're independent. Incredible. That's amazing. There are so many people who do that really successfully. But some of you might be listening and you might be like, yeah, but how do I do that? How do I come up with my stories? I don't think I've done anything before. I'm struggling. I can't, it's too hard. I'm sitting here and I can't come up with anything. How do I know which ones are good? Can someone tell me, is this a good one? Then what do I do once I've found them? How do I structure them? How do I know when to use them? How do I make sure they sound right? I'm worried that I'm rambling. I'm worried that my situation's not good enough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If that's you, then you need to go and have a look at our Interview Academy. I promise you that I've put in every single hint, tip, activity, guide. Like it takes you through the how. I think the podcast is really good at the what do you need to do. The Academy is the how. How do you come up with them? What are we going to do? How are we brainstorming? And the feedback has been so good. Like we've had people say it helped them come up with stories that they'd completely forgotten that they even did that. And they're like, oh, I remembered because of this video I watched and this prompt that you gave. Or I've had some people say where they looked at their best bits and they're like practicing them and they're going, wow, I'm even impressed with how good this sounds. Like I'm impressing myself. Yeah. Because sometimes it takes us a while. Like you did it. And so it's hard for you to deliver it so that someone else understands how important it was. And it takes you through all of that. If you're looking at the Interview Academy, we just launched something to help people get a bit of an idea of what it's like. So I put together a free training. It's called Top Interview Tips. And it's me on a video talking you through the 4 really core, most important things you can do for your next interview. So it kind of gives you a bit of a taste of what it's like to actually learn inside the course, because I'm conscious that if you've only listened to the podcast, you might be like, well, what's actually going to be covered? What's it actually like learning on video? And yeah, so I go through 4 awesome tips. It's got plenty of action-packed examples, like little guides, little diagrams, things that'll really help you nail these concepts. I think it's super valuable. And at the end, I show you a little bit of inside the course as well. So if you're curious, it's like a really good way to kind of see a taster, like a try before you buy, see if the Academy's right for you. Even if you don't want the Academy, you'll still get a lot out of this training, honestly. Like that was my absolute goal. I cannot tell you how frustrated I get when I do a free training and it's like, it doesn't teach me anything. I get really annoyed.
Just a heap of fluff. And then at the end, it's like, click here now.
Yeah, it drives me insane. So
no, this is value packed.
We don't do that. We don't do that. And we don't gatekeep either. It's not like we're keeping all of our secret answers inside the Academy. I never want anyone to think that. It's the how. That's the magic of it. It's the extra step by step here's how you do it. Here's ideas. Here's different ways of explaining it. Here's like all of my best anecdotes, examples. Do you know what I mean? It's just like all of the extra help. So
it holds your hand.
Yeah, it does. It does. So if you want the free training, go and check it out. It's interviewboss.com.au/interview-tips. We will link that below. It is brand new. I'm just about to put it up. You might have seen it already. If you haven't, go and check it out. Check out the Interview Academy. But if you just needed a pointer and you just needed the best bits concept and your mind is blown and you're off and racing and you're going to do it all on your own, amazing. You go. You got this.
You go, Glenn Coco.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks so much for listening to Interview Boss. If you like hearing the sound of our voices, follow us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, or better yet, tell someone else about the show. That's how people find us every single day. They trust you and your recommendations, and it helps us hit the charts so we can reach even more people. And we'd really love it if you wanted to support the show to chuck us a follow on Instagram. We share savable, actionable content, things that are helpful for you, shout outs to our community. Go and check it out at Interview Boss.
If we've been your job search besties and helped you in some way, there's a cool way you can support the show. Shout us a virtual coffee.
We get a huge kick out of reading all of your success stories. Head to buymeacoffee.com/interviewboss and shout us a cuppa.
If you keep us caffeinated, we can keep the content coming.